Okay, be honest. Do you ever just find yourself endlessly scrolling, or maybe reaching for just one more snack, or feeling totally buried under a mountain of notifications? Yeah, you are definitely not alone. It feels like we're all living in this state of constant overstimulation, and it's got a lot of us wondering, man, do I need to just hit a reset button on my brain? And that's where this whole idea comes in, right? It sounds so simple. Just take a break. Step away from the social media, the sugar, the gaming, and boom, you reset your brain's pleasure centers. The promise is you'll break those bad habits and start enjoying the simple things again. But, and this is a big but, can you actually detox from dopamine? Is that even a real thing, scientifically speaking? So here's the game plan for our journey today. First, we're going to look at the fat itself. Then we'll get into what dopamine actually does. After that, we'll uncover the real goal here. And most importantly, this is the good stuff. We're going to dive into real, practical, science-backed ways you can boost your motivation and totally rewire that reward system. Let's get to it. All right, first up, the dopamine detox fad. So where did this all come from? Well, it kicked off with a really catchy name. But believe me, the real story behind the hype, it might just surprise you. Get this, the guy who actually came up with the term, Dr. Cameron Sepa, has said himself that the name dopamine fast was basically just good marketing. It was intentionally catchy. His goal was to explain how addiction works, but he's been really clear that you're not supposed to take the name literally at all. And that brings us to the most important truth of all. You can't actually detox from dopamine. And trust me, you wouldn't want to. See, dopamine isn't a poison. It's a totally essential neurotransmitter. Your brain needs it for, well, pretty much everything. Moving, sleeping, motivation, and yeah, pleasure too. In fact, having low dopamine is a serious problem, linked to things like Parkinson's and depression. Okay, so if it's not just the pleasure molecule we hear about all the time, what's its real job? This is where we need to level up our understanding, moving past the pop science version to what's really going on inside our heads. Think of dopamine as your brain's ultimate motivation coach. It's the go-get-it chemical. It's that driving force that makes you want to seek out rewards. It's also a powerful teacher, stamping in behaviors that lead to good things. And on top of all that, it's crucial for focus and for helping your brain figure out what to expect from the world. So here's a key takeaway. It's way more about the wanting than it is about the liking. So if detoxing is off the table, what are we actually trying to do here? What's the real goal? Well, it's something way more powerful, and it's called resensitization. We want to resensitize our brain's reward system. This really cuts to the core of it. The myth, the thing everyone gets wrong, is that we need to lower our dopamine. But the reality, no. We need to resensitize our reward system. It's gotten kind of numb from all the constant stimulation. And what happens then? We need bigger and bigger hits of dopamine just to feel normal. Here's a good way to think about it. Imagine you're eating super sweet candy all day, every day. Pretty soon, a piece of fruit is going to taste really bland, right? The same thing happens in your brain. When you're constantly hitting it with super stimulating stuff, like endless social media feeds or junk food, your brain basically turns down the volume on its own dopamine system to protect itself. And the result? Your baseline for pleasure drops, and suddenly, normal, everyday things just feel boring. Okay, so that's the problem. The big question is, how do we fix it? Well, there's a two-part solution, and part one is all about building a solid foundation. We're going to focus on daily habits that actually raise your baseline dopamine. I love this analogy. It's like raising the water level in a wave pool. You need enough water in there before you can even think about making big waves of motivation. And here are 5 things you can do every day that are backed by solid science. Number 1, quality sleep. It literally refills your dopamine tank. 2, something called non-sleep deep rest, or NSDR, a super powerful tool. 3, eating foods rich in tyrosine, which is basically the raw building block for dopamine. Think things like meats, nuts, and some cheeses. And finally, getting some sunlight first thing in the morning and getting regular exercise. These are all proven ways to keep that baseline healthy and strong. And speaking of NSDR, you gotta hear this. Some research has shown that these practices, and we're talking about something as simple as a 10-minute guided meditation or body scan, can potentially boost your available dopamine by up to 65%. I mean, that's an incredible return on investment for just a few minutes of just resting. So you see, getting these fundamentals right isn't just a nice to have, it's everything. It's about building that rock-solid foundation. Once you have a healthy baseline, you have the energy. You have the fuel in the tank to actually go after your goals and feel motivated, not just for a day, but day in and day out.
All right, that was part one, filling the tank. Now for part two of the system. Once you've got the fuel, you've got to learn how to drive the car. This part is all about the actions you can take, the behavioral techniques to literally retrain your brain. It's about learning to find reward in things that aren't hyperstimulating. Basically, it's about making the hard stuff feel good again. Let's break it down into 3 simple but seriously powerful strategies. First up, taking boring breaks. Yeah, you heard me. Second, what I like to call inhabiting the in-between, learning to just be present in those little gaps in your day. And third, good old-fashioned monotasking, just doing one thing at a time. Okay, so what on earth is a boring break? Here's a perfect example. Think about it. When you take a break from work, what do? Probably grab your phone and scroll, right? That's super stimulating. So when you go back to your work, the work feels even more boring. But what if you flipped it? What if for your break you did something truly boring, like literally just stare at a wall for 2 minutes? It sounds crazy, but your brain recalibrates. And when you go back to that task, suddenly it seems a whole lot more interesting. And here's where we come full circle. This whole idea, it's not some new fad. These techniques are straight out of cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. Remember Dr. Seppa? His original dopamine fast was really just a new name for a classic CBT method used to help people manage compulsive behaviors. And just look at the list of behaviors his method was actually designed for. Things like emotional eating, excessive gaming, gambling, and so on. This makes it so clear this was never meant to be a lifestyle trend about avoiding all pleasure. It was designed as a therapeutic tool to help people manage compulsions that were getting in the way of their lives. Okay, let's pull this all together and summarize the big shift in thinking we've talked about. We're ditching the myth of a dopamine detox for the real science of resensitizing our reward system. We're moving away from the idea of avoiding all pleasure and towards mindfully managing compulsive behavior. And most importantly, we're trading in the fantasy of a quick fix for a real, long-term strategy built on solid daily habits. So, when you really think about it, the goal here is not about fasting from a chemical at all. It's not about deprivation, it's the complete opposite. It's about feasting on a more intentional, more focused, and ultimately, a more rewarding life. Look, in the world we live in today, your attention is literally a currency. It's one of the most valuable things you have. And now that you understand a little more about how your brain's reward system works, you have the power to choose where you invest it. So, the final question is, what are you going to choose to focus on?